Hey guys, here is a video on the chapter Kidney Part 2. So, in this lecture, we'll study about the macroscopic and microscopic structure of the kidney. First, we'll look about the macroscopic structure of the kidney. So, when the kidney is split longitudinally, it presents the kidney proper as well as renal sinus. It has two main parts. It can be divided into two main parts, that is kidney proper as well as renal sinus. As you can see in this diagram, there is a renal sinus as well as the kidney proper around, where the kidney proper, the outer covering is the renal capsule. Then there are two main layers of the kidney, that is renal cortex and renal medulla. There is renal sinus here, where the hilum, major, minor calyces pass inside this. So let us see the theory part, where first we'll study about the kidney proper. The naked eye examination of the kidney proper presents the outer cortex and inner medulla. So the kidney proper is having main two parts, that is outer cortex as well as inner medulla. The outer cortex is located just below the renal capsule and extends between the renal pyramids as renal columns or columns of Bertini. The cortex appears pale yellow with granular texture. So what they are trying to tell is the cortex, as we have seen in the diagram, the cortex is located just after the renal capsule or below the renal capsule. It extends between the renal pyramids and as renal columns of Bertini. As we can see in this diagram, see there are renal columns and there are renal pyramids. So in this area it is called as renal columns or columns of Bertini. The cortex appears pale yellow color, whereas the medulla is a bit brownish in color. Cortex is pale yellow color and medulla is brownish in color. So cortex appears pale yellow with granular texture. Now we'll move on to medulla. So medulla is composed of 5 to 11 dark conical masses called as renal pyramids or pyramids of Malpighi. So here there is columns of Bertini in cortex. In medulla there is pyramids of Malpighi located, which are also called as renal pyramids. The apices of the renal pyramids forms nipple-like projection called as renal papillae, which invaginates the minor calyces. As we can see in the diagram here, so we can see the renal papilla here. We can see the presence of renal papilla here. So they are apices of renal pyramids. As you can see, renal pyramids here, these are renal pyramids here. So they invaginate and form renal papillae. So renal papillae, and these are invaginated by the minor calyces. They are invaginated by the minor calyces, which continues as major calyx, then renal pelvis, and finally as ureter. So there will be ureter, renal pelvis, major calyces, which divides into minor calyces inside the renal pyramids, which is also called as pyramids of Malpighi. Now we'll move on to the renal sinus. So as moving on to the renal sinus, sinus means a cavity or it is a hollow shaped structure. So sinus basically means a cavity. It's a cavity of considerable size present within the kidney. It takes up a large part of interior of the kidney and opens at the medial border of the kidney as hilus or hilum. So as you can see in this diagram, this is the renal sinus, which is taking part or the medial border of the kidney opens as the hilum. So this hilum mainly consists of the renal pelvis, major and minor calyces and renal vessels, some lymphatics, nerves and fat. All these are contents of the renal sinus: renal pelvis, major and minor calyces, renal vessels, some lymphatics and nerves. The sinus is lined by the continuation of the true capsule of the kidney. As I have said, there is presence of 4 capsules: true capsule, perinephric capsule, false capsule, paranephric capsule. The other words we can see it as fibrous capsule, nephric capsule or perinephric fat. Then there is presence of false capsule and paranephric fat. Further moving on, the sinus is lined by continuation of true capsule of the kidney. Numerous nipple-like elevations called as renal papillae, as I've showed in the previous diagram, indents the wall of the sinus. Here it is indenting the wall of the renal sinus. The renal pelvis within the sinus is divided into 2 or 3 large branches called as major calyces, which further divides to form 5 to 11 short branches called as minor calyces. I have shown all the things in the diagram. So the calyx expands as it approaches the wall of renal sinus, and its expanded end is indented and molded around the renal papillae. The collecting tubules within the renal papillae opens into minor calyces by perforating its wall and capsule lining the sinus. Thus, the pelvic of the ureter, upper funnel-shaped part of ureter, is connected with the kidney tissues through calyces. So there is connection between the ureter as well as the kidney with the help of these major and minor calyces. So we'll look after the microscopic structure of the kidney. We'll see its histological basis also. Each kidney consists of 1 to 3 millions of uriniferous tubules. Each uriniferous tubules consist of the two components, that is nephron and the collecting tubule. First we'll study about the nephron and next we'll study about the collecting tubule. So nephron, as we know, it is the structural and functional unit of the kidney. So the number of nephrons is around 1 to 3 million. Each nephron consists of glomerulus and tubular system. So it consists of a glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, and it consists of tubular system. As you can see in this diagram, there is presence of glomerulus, afferent and efferent arteriole, Bowman's capsule. Then what includes the tubular system? So the glomerulus is a tuft of capillaries surrounded by the Bowman's capsule. We know this point. So the tubular system consists of PCT, Henle's loop. Henle's loop also consists of the ascending limb of Henle's loop and descending limb of Henle's loop, DCT, junctional tubule. After that, there is presence of collecting duct. So collecting tubule or collecting duct begins as a junctional tubule from the DCT, as you can see here. So it begins as junctional tubule from the DCT. Many collecting tubules unites together to form collecting duct or called as duct of Bellini. So till now we studied 3 ducts. One is column of Bertini, which is present in the cortex, renal cortex. Malpighi, that is pyramids of Malpighi in the medulla. And third one, in collecting duct, we are studying about the duct of Bellini, which opens into apex of renal papilla. As you can see in this diagram, the collecting duct is opening into the apex of the renal papilla. So glomerulus, which is surrounded by Bowman's capsule. In this glomerulus, there is presence of thick efferent arteriole and thin efferent arteriole. Presence of PCT, which continues as loop of Henle. The loop of Henle has mainly 2 limbs, ascending limb and descending limb. Then it continues as DCT. After DCT, there is presence of junctional tubule where the collecting duct or collecting tubule begins. The collecting tubule ends at the apex of renal papilla. The collecting tubule radiates from the renal pyramids into cortical region to form radial striations called as medullary rays. So there is presence of radial striations, which is also called as medullary rays. Now we'll look after the renal arterial supply with the help of a flow chart. I'll be doing a easier representation so that we can remember this renal arteries easily. Firstly, we'll write the heading, that is renal artery. So we have to start from the main important artery, that is abdominal aorta. So imagine this as, this is abdominal aorta. So from this abdominal aorta, there is the main important branch, that is renal artery coming. So we'll name this as renal artery. So we'll divide it here. So first one is the renal artery coming. This renal artery divides into 5 segments. That is, each renal artery is dividing into 5 segments, and that is called as segmental artery. So it is giving 5 segments What is it called? It is called as segmental artery. So I'll just continue only one thing, that is renal artery. We'll take one segmental artery. So there are 5 segmental arteries in each. So this segmental artery, we'll divide it here. So the segmental artery further continues as the lobar artery. We'll consider only one. So this segmental artery, one segmental artery, each segmental artery continues as the lobar artery. It is continuing as lobar artery. So the lobar artery further continues as interlobar artery. So it further continues as the interlobar artery. So we are done till the interlobar artery. Further, this interlobar artery is dividing as the arcuate artery. So arcuate artery divides into 2 branches. One is to the left, that is called as left arcuate artery. One is to the right, which is called as right arcuate artery. So we'll draw its diagram. So they are left and right. It's called as, we'll write it here, left arcuate artery, and this is called as the right arcuate artery. So there are 2 main arcuate arteries, that is left arcuate artery and right arcuate artery. So each arcuate artery gives off 3 branches, which is called as the interlobular artery. So don't confuse with the interlobar artery and interlobular artery. So each arcuate artery consists of 3 interlobular artery. 1, 2, 3. Here also there is 1, 2, 3. We'll name it. So this orange thing is nothing but, we'll name it here, that is interlobular artery. Don't confuse with the interlobar artery and interlobular artery. So there is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 3 interlobular artery is present on both the sides. Further, this interlobular artery gives off the efferent arterioles. So each branch gives off some. So what are these things? This is afferent arteriole. So it is giving off the afferent arteriole. So we'll come up with this structure once again. So we'll start from the beginning. So the main artery is the abdominal aorta. So the abdominal aorta, which gives a branch, we know it as renal artery. Renal artery which further gives 5 segments, which is called as the segmental artery. So we'll consider only one segment. This thing is present in all the 5 segments. So if we consider one segment, it continues as the lobar artery, which further continues as the interlobar artery. After that, there is presence of arcuate artery. There are 2 arcuate arteries. There is presence of 2 arcuate artery, that is left arcuate artery and right arcuate artery. So each arcuate artery gives off 3 main interlobular artery. 3 main interlobular artery. So interlobular artery further gives off afferent arterioles. This is a small diagrammatic diagram which I thought would make you to study it easier for renal arteries. Further, moving on, the vascular segment present in the kidney. So moving on to the vascular segments of the kidney, there are 5 main vascular segments of the kidney. So renal artery of each kidney is having 5 vascular segments. Each segment has its own artery between the segments, and there is no anastomosis present between these segments. So first one is the apical segment. Second one is the upper segment. Third one is the middle segment. Fourth one is lower segment. And finally the fifth one is posterior segment. So what are the 5 segments? Apical, upper, middle, lower and posterior. These are the 5 main vascular segments present in the kidney. We'll see this through the help of representation of diagram. So as we can see in the diagram, the renal artery is having anterior branches and the posterior branches. Anterior branches are in the front, posterior branches supply the behind the kidney. So as we can see in this diagram, the surface includes apical, upper, middle, lower. This is while seeing in different angles. So in this you can see apical, upper, middle, lower, posterior. So Brodell's line, what is Brodell's line? It is nothing but it's a avascular plane. It's a avascular plane which is present between the 1/3 of posterior division of renal artery and 2/3 of anterior division of renal artery. So this is 1/3 and this is 2/3. So it is a line, avascular plane, which is present between posterior 1/3 and anterior 2/3 of the kidney. So these are the main 5 vascular segments of the kidney. Moving on to the nerve supply of the kidney. We look after the venous drainage of the kidney. So venous drainage is mainly from the renal veins, that is left and right renal vein. Remember this word, artery. I have drawn the chart. Remember that chart, mainly by the renal artery. Venous drainage is mainly from the renal veins, that is left and right renal vein. The left renal vein passes in front of aorta, immediately below the origin of inferior mesenteric artery. So we look after the lymphatic drainage. The lymphatic drainage of the kidney is mainly by 2 lymphatic nodes, that is aortic lymph nodes as well as para-aortic lymph nodes. Aortic lymph nodes as well as para-aortic lymph nodes. Further moving on, the nerve supply and development of the kidney. So the nerve supply, each kidney is supplied by the renal plexus of the nerves. The kidney is mainly supplied with the renal plexus of nerves, which reaches the kidney along the renal artery. Along with the renal artery, renal plexus of nerves is also present. So sympathetic fibers is mainly derived from T10 to L1 spinal segments, whereas the parasympathetic fibers is mainly derived from the vagus nerve. Sympathetic from the T10 to L1 segments, parasympathetic mainly from the vagus nerve. Looking about the development, looking in the development, so mesonephric duct, which mainly calyces and pelvis is mainly developed from the mesonephric duct, whereas lobules of the kidney is mainly developed from the metanephric duct. Some of the clinical correlations includes the lobulated artery, congenital polycystic kidney, horseshoe shaped kidney, renal agenesis. So that's it about the chapter kidney. So hope you have understood the video. So please do like, share, comment and subscribe. If you have any doubts, you can clarify it in the comment section. Thank you.